On today's video, we're going to talk about what I think was my favorite bait 2023, and I think is very, very universal, and that you can catch a fish on every single day throughout the entirety of the year. So there has been a buzz, and it's no secret throughout the past year, about forward-facing sonar. Now, this bait I'm going to show you guys is not just good with forward-facing sonar, but I'm going to talk to you why you don't need forward-facing sonar to excel with this bait. What that is the Demiki rig. So I'm going to show you guys a few different fishing clips here showing this exact bait. And this bait specifically is getting so many different names, different techniques involved with it for good reason. It is very versatile. Some people call it a jig and minnow. Some people call it Demiki rig. Some people call it moping. Some people call it hovering. Some people call it hanging a minnow. There's so many different ways that you can talk about it, call it, name it, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to label it. But regardless, it's simply a jig head and a fluke or minnow style bait. Here specifically, I have a Maxent flat nose minnow, which I use now and then when I'm throwing a Demiki. It really is like when people talk about hanging a minnow or moping, like you've seen Jeff Gustafson do in the Bassmaster Classic or when he won on the Tennessee River. The times I'll use the Maxent is when I'm literally just hanging it below my boat or tight lining it, where it's very slowly at an angle coming down at these fish, where it allows that Maxent, that scent dispersion, actually to work. Other times, there's other baits I'll show you guys here in a little bit after these fishing clips of my favorite baits. Throwing this thing, setup, and the whole reason behind all of that. But the reason I think that this bait was one of my favorites for 2023 and so effective, and I believe it's so universal around the country, but also 365 days a year, is that with or without technology, you're going to catch fish on this. There's a variety of factors. One, it is about every dang thing that swims in our lakes is going to eat a jig-headed minnow, because it represents a small bait fish, from bass to crappie to pike to perch. The whole 9 yards, the whole gauntlet of freshwater fish beyond maybe your carps and such are going to eat this, or at least try to. Of course, you can adjust your hook size, things like that, if you're going to be very species dependent, but you are going to catch a crap ton of fish, or at least get a crap ton of bites on this bait, and it does draw attention, especially when we're talking about clear water fisheries. Do not be afraid to throw this in some dirtier water. You'd be surprised what fish can actually do. Now, first and foremost, like I was talking about earlier, with forward-facing sonar, this bait is greatly effective because you can manipulate it in a bunch of ways, being able to hover it, be able to stroll it through the water column, be able to just dead stick it or mope it, as we're talking about hanging in the minnow. But you can also reel it, swim it, and accelerate with speeds, yo-yo it. You can do a whole multitude of different things. And there are baits out there that are better, that are similar to the Demiki, that can do other actions. But for the most part, this thing is just super efficient, especially when forward-facing sonar and fish that are either on bottom or high in the column that are schooling. I've seen there's a couple videos that I'll link down below on top of this video itself that I was using a Demiki rig where I won state championships and I caught some pretty dang big fish doing this. So I'll show you guys that down below. Feel free to go watch those after this. The one thing I will say with this bait, one thing you want to note is that obviously, there are always exceptions, but for the most part, you want to keep this bait always above the fish's head. Do not let the bait go past that fish. As long as you keep it up, they'll feed up to your bait, because sometimes they get a little suspicious if you let that drop below and hit the bottom, come back up, and that's lingering again over their head. It could be a turnoff for some of those fish. But without forward-facing sonar, you can still catch the living crap fish with this bait. There's a few different strategies to that, and I want to run through those before we go show you guys some of these fishing clips here. And that is when you're targeting specific structure. Obviously, there's strategy behind weight in the head on if you're going to use a 1/16 versus a quarter or a 3/8, things like that. There's different things you can do. Like if you're going after a lake trout, you can use a heavier jig head and straight, vertically jig that. Whereas if you're going after crappie, you probably want to go on a much, much lighter jig head, like a 1/32 ounce. If you're targeting bridge pilings, it's one where you can cast past that bridge piling, depending how deep it is. And what you could do is essentially hold your rod tip up and do what we call tight lining, where it's maybe if you know there's fish on that column, you think it's clear enough water, cast past that bridge piling, let it sink a couple seconds, just hold your line taut. Because what that bait is doing, like if you think about it, bridge piling is right here, and your boat's here, you're casting past that bridge piling, bait is going to sit here, it's going to pendulum down. If you hold that line taut, just slowly reel in that slack, that bait is going to come down here on a pendulum and swing above those fish. At least it's going to swing in a you might have to be a little bit more calculated in regards to your second count, in regards to how long you're letting that bait go down, but that is still a way that you can catch fish. Or you can simply cast past, say, the bridge piling, or maybe it's a tree, whatever it might be, docks, cast past it and just let it go down. You have a second count pending the depth and the weight of the jig head, and just start slowly reeling. You can either straight reel, slow reel. You can do small little taps of it so that bait's coming along and it's bouncing up and down a little bit, kind of giving it a head jiggle. You can do one where it's, you burn it 2 or 3 seconds and then let it tight line. Burn it 2 or 3 seconds, let it tight line. There's different things you can do. You can play around with it. You don't need technology to catch fish on this bait specifically. It is a killer. Fall, winter, spring, summer. Of course, we're going to have other baits throughout the, like say the summer or the spring, that are going to shine better than say a Demiki rig. But that does not mean you're not going to catch the crap out of fish with a Demiki rig during those times, especially in the summer when you think about schooling fish. Springtime, obviously during spawn, things like that, there's going to be a small window there where it's not going to be the first thing you're going to pick up, but it's going to catch the crap out of fish and multiple species at that throughout the year. So now what we're going to do is walk through that a little bit. Towards the end, I'm going to walk through a setup with you guys that I like to use: rod, reel, line, and baits, things of that nature. We're going to walk through that at the end, but you guys want to see some fishing clips. So let's roll through some footage of me catching some roaming suspended fish that are either chasing bait or out there just roaming the abyss using Mega Live. I have the Mega Live overlay so you guys can see it. So let's get into it. All right, so what you see here on the screen, it's a bait ball here. And if my screen flickers at all, I apologize. Something is up with my GoPro footage here. At least that's on the screen, so it like flickers a little bit. But you see there's a bait ball. All those blobs above it are bass, and they were chasing my bait off of that. And essentially they're going after my bait. I burned it back too fast. You can see they screamed after it. I don't know if you can see through the flickering of it. So again, I apologize. Not all the clips are like this, but threw that back in there, and it was some big smallmouth and largemouth bass that were moving and chasing that school of bait. That's a nice freaking smallmouth. He's blind in one eye. That's a good kayak bass. This next clip, you'll see similar here. School of bait. And as I'm panning around, what I'm doing is I'm panning around my forward facing on each side of that bait, and you see there it is. There's schools of bass that are hovering above there, that are just staying within reach, staying within a certain distance of that bait, so that when something comes around, there's a straggler, aka my Demiki rig, they pounce. There's just examples of these fish that are just lingering around the bait balls. They just know that their food's right there. They can eat whenever they want. You see those blobs on top. Those are all bass with that school of bait. It's cool how these bait balls actually form an interesting shape too. You'll see one coming up to my Demiki here. We got 2 big blobs on top of a big ball of bait. You'll see them start rocking in towards the top after my Demiki rig. There they go. It's super fun, this method of fishing, because it's the anticipation of like, oh, here we go. And get one. Big old largemouth. This one's a big largemouth. It's a freaking largemouth. It's a freaking largemouth. Like, come on. Oh, shoot, before I lose my rod. That's just crazy. So this clip right here is actually pretty interesting. There's no bait. It's just 2 fish that are roaming rogue. Chances are those are big ones. I put it right on their head and you watch them rocket right up to go eat them. That is a freaking cool sight. And as soon as I set that hook, oh my God, that was a big fish. That's a giant. giant. That's a freaking giant smallmouth. Take your time. Out here in the middle of nowhere. Under the kayak. There was 2 of them with it too. I'm talking to you guys here because my chesty just died. This is where this bait shines. When there are groups of bait, fish that are roaming, chasing, in a feeding mood, you can just tell by how they're situated. They're feeding. When they actively feed and they see a random straggler, they're going to go eat it. They have that mode set in their mind already that we're here to eat. We're not here to do anything else. So when you see stuff like that, I mean, what's cool too, without forward-facing sonar, I probably would not have caught as many fish because I couldn't locate them as well. So I will admit to that. But there were boils on the top of the water of some of these baits that are pushing up. So it's one of those things where you could call them up with top water. This is fairly clear water. Or these boils do the same thing with that Demiki. Literally just let it sink down 5 or so seconds and just tight line it back or start reeling because they'll come up and eat it. You saw how far they went up to eat some of these. So you can still catch them without forward-facing sonar, but forward-facing sonar certainly does aid in locating these fish. Let's get a picture of him. Thank you, Mama. See you later. Smart. I just want it to be freaking states already. I'm ready to go. I hope those freaking fish are doing that. I would love to just smash all smallies. Alright. So some of these clips, like I was telling you guys, was weird in the beginning, and there were some of them that were so glitchy, unfortunately, that I had the overlay on. And so you're going to see some of these fishing clips that have just straight up just me catching, seeing these schooling fish. So there wasn't a live overlay for this because, again, technology loves to screw me over. You guys have seen me on this channel have GoPro issues over and over again. So enjoy these last couple minutes here of fish clips, and then we're going to come back. You guys, then we're going to convene here at the end after these fishing clips and talk through my rod and reel setup. Here, hold on. I'm going to snap video you. Put this thing around. Look at it. Middle of nowhere.
It's caught. Jesus Christ.
Look at this. 40 feet. Look at that thing.
That's wild.
He's just sitting there. It's like, I give up.
God, he's so fat.
Dude, yeah, watch this thing. Dang. Old son is tubby. Thank you, buddy. Oh my God, there's so many freaking bass. Holy crap.
Dinner to mom, so.
Hold on. There's like freaking 20 of them. They're all coming up to the surface too.
Break those in there.
This is. Oh my God. Oh my God, dude.
Giant?
Yeah. There's a whole school of them. I want to see if I can double up here. This is going to be stupid, but I'm going to do it. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like, this thing's probably a 4-pounder. Maybe bigger than that. This might be close to 5 again. Gosh, dude. Shoo. caught another trout. That's so cool. Dang. I should have known how fast that thing was moving. That was fast. Knew that was a freaking smallmouth. Oh, quick release. There's some.
11:55. It's gonna last till 12:20. It's gonna last like a half hour.
Oh well, here we go. There's so many. Cast right where I'm at.
Right in front of me.
Yep. Yep, there you go.
That was sick.
Coming up.
Oh,
Dude, there's a bunch. Cast at my kayak. That's a freaking giant. Cast right here, right in front of my nose. There's like freaking 40 of them. Keep letting it sink. God, that's a giant. That's the biggest one all day.
yeah, that was sick.
Feel free to come over here, dude. I only care about this
When
fish now.
rain comes,
Yeah, get over here.
I catch one smallmouth, I'll be happy.
God.
Just still in front of you.
They are right. Yeah, right in front. Yeah, perfect. Right there. Hold the bait. Wait. You got one coming. You got one coming. Just hold tight. Hold tight. Just real slow. Back to you. Where are you at, girl? He's not on anymore. Get a picture of that one. Sweet. Thank you, Mama. Bye. So, what I have here, I literally have an entire box dedicated to Demiki rigs. There's different scenarios where you might want different color patterns, different shapes, give them something a little bit different that they might have not been seeing on occasion. There are favorites. I went through Max sent one I talked to you guys about that I use in specific situations, but for the most part, as you can see, Max scent doesn't hang all that well in regards to shape. And if you're fluttering it, it's got a lot of movement in the back end, but for the most part, it doesn't hold shape as well. So there are other ones. I have two big favorites that I have for this technique. And what those are, one that's very popular right now, the V2. Z-Man also has them as well in the Z-Man Streaks, but also a little sleeper for you guys. And then again, these baits are going to be linked down below to Omnia Fishing. Use code Series10, save 10%. Also, check out the Omnia Fishing app and Premium Pro. Trust me. But also, scented jerk shads. Something a little bit different. Basically the same bait. Something a little extra scent-wise on it. Pretty nifty. That's one of my favorites. And the other one that I like using that was in these fish clips is the Gambler FFS Min-o. You think Gambler, you think Florida for the most part, and rightfully so. But that little mamma jamma, see how fast that tail moves with such little action? It's something I like. Super little small profile, some pretty good colors they got dialed in on there. Sneaky. Definitely check that one out as well. shout out to my boy Mikey Balls, who actually hooked me up with those and put me on to showing me that they're a great Demiki bait. So I encourage you guys to check them out. That bait wise, that is what I like to use. Jig head is basically, for the most part, I use the Queen Tackle tungsten live sonar jig head. I don't know, it's just a confidence thing. Like, I've thrown lead and caught them too. Yes, tungsten does show up a little bit better on forward facing sonar, but for the most part, all technologies pick up lead and things like that. It's whatever you have, as long as you have a hook that you like, because hook size does matter here, but also weighting. You know, weight towards the front. The biggest thing is that line tie degree. I'm not going to speak like I'm some professional here, because I'm not. But in talking with Jeff Gustafson, it's that 90 degrees that helps that bait hang. So if you can have that, that is the most crucial part about this, because you need to have that bait be as horizontal as possible. Where if it's floating backwards, you know, basically standing straight up, those fish are going to be a little suspicious to that. Not saying they won't eat it, they just might not eat it as much or as well. When it comes to rod and reel, I like, my setup is fairly basic, but I do make a tweak on it when it comes to a reel that I think does make a big impact. Now, for the most part, you have decent hookup ratio when you have single hook. You're going to land most fish, but you also, there's opportunity to lose fish is good too, is great too, because of how they eat this thing. Or sometimes they come up, rock it, and push it up, and you might not feel that bite right away. It's almost like how crappie eat; they up bite. Sometimes these bass will do the same thing, and you just might get a weird hook in them, you know, trying to catch up. That where it comes to this. That's where this catching up. This is where I factor that in. This is just a simple 7-foot medium fast spinning rod, but right here, reel wise, that is the Ebu Garcia Revo Rocket, 7/6-to-1 fastest spinning reel on the market, 10-pound braid, and I use 10-pound Gamma Fluorocarbon. I like to bulk it up a little bit. I don't think you need the super light line. Definitely worth trying if you get some fish that are interested and you're not getting bites. It's worth trying a lighter line, but I like to hit these fish a little bit harder. I got that again from Gussie, in the fact of these fish, they're coming up to eat that minnow. If they're feeding up like that, chances are they're not really too worried about all what things look like, things like that. Having that line there allows me, one, to catch up fast with that faster reel, but then the 10-pound braid, 10-pound fluorocarbon allows me to jam that hook and really kind of wrench on them a little bit, making sure that hook's dug into there, and it helps me get more fish into the boat. That's the setup. It's fairly basic, and the nice thing about that 7-foot rod, it gives you a lot of control. You can go to longer rods for sure. Some people definitely like them. I know some guys like 7.4s to 7.5s. I like that 7-foot just because it gives me a lot of control of that bait. I can still make long casts, still pin them at long casts with the braid, the fluorocarbon, especially with a tighter drag, but it allows me to manipulate that bait exactly how I want to, but also be able to drop it right down in front of the boat with ease. I can scream it right back into that fast reel. That's a nice thing with forward-facing sonar. If I see other fish, because they move fast, guys, it's not that easy to pinpoint. You know, it's kind of like a quarterback throw into a receiver. You got to lead them. There's times when those fish are swimming left to right or vice versa, where if you cast where they're at and they're at 50 feet, but they're 20 feet down, by the time your bait gets there and starts sinking, and those fish are going to be completely gone by the time your bait gets down there. So you got to lead those fish. You got to kind of see what they're doing, understand that the technology as well as how these fish are behaving. If they're fishing or they're moving fast, you got to lead them a good amount, because you just got to make sure, as long as they can get in front of them, especially if you got clear water, if you can get in front of them, they'll come up and eat it. At least they'll come up and check it out. You can kind of get a feel for how you should adjust from there. But all in all, the Demiki rig is one heck of a bait. My favorite, I think, and most efficient from a learning tool this past year in 2023, but also won me a decent amount of money, which is always good, and I always like that. If you guys want to see more fishing clips, more stuff about the Demiki rig, I got links down below where I was catching the crap out of them on a Demiki, especially in a tournament setting. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, again, check out the links to Omnia. That'll show you everything you need to get set up, from rod, reel to bait. Make sure you use that discount code if you're going to do so. Save yourself some money. Please like, subscribe to the channel, share this video with a friend, and when we got some tournaments coming up real soon, and you know what, guys, it is that time of year. Chasing hardware is coming back real soon. Pretty pumped about it. It'll be in the next several videos. We'll be heading down to Lake Murray for the first Bassmaster kayak event. I'm pretty hyped for that. So there's a lot to keep up with. Make sure you guys follow me on social media if you want real-time updates. Obviously, these videos are a little bit backlogged. We're sitting here in 6 foot of snow here in Buffalo, but that's why I'm churning these videos out for you. But I hope you enjoyed it. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.